Hey guys, it's me, cyoubx, and this is the MoYu WRM 2020. This is a cube that I've been anticipating for a little while now. I really enjoyed the Meilong 3M and the Rs3M 2020 from MoYu earlier this year, and the Rs3M has been my main since the day that I got it. The one complaint I had about the Rs3M 2020 was that the cube was kind of heavy and the magnets were not that strong, but otherwise I really like the performance and I get my best times on the Rs3M 2020. Unboxing the WRM 2020, we get sort of the standard worm accessories. You get some extra springs, extra compression tools, you get an extra core, etc. I'm not really sure why extra springs are included. Personally, I do like stiffer springs, which is what they include in the accessories pack, but there's already a spring compression system, so to me it doesn't really make sense to have two sets of springs. Either just have swappable springs or have a single spring and then just use the compression system. But anyway, they are in there. I tried both of them. Originally, I thought that I would like the stiffer springs, so I just put those in right away, but it turns out, as I'll explain later in this video, that the cube has a very light feel and it works better with lighter springs, so I ended up swapping it back to the original springs. In terms of setup, I essentially did the same thing I did for the Rs3M 2020 since out of the box they felt similar-ish. I'll have that tutorial linked in the description, but effectively I used Angstrom Gravitas for the base of the pieces, Angstrom Dignitas for the size of the pieces, and then I added in some Compound 10 just to slow it down a little bit. Out of the box, the Worm 2020 is a very, very fast cube and it has sort of a papery feel, so adding all that lube in does slow it down and make it more controllable. But I did actually run into some kind of tricky things with this cube. So initially when I set it up, I had swapped it to the stiffer springs and I compressed it down to the third click. And while the turning was very controllable, I was getting really bad times. I was barely averaging sub 12, which is like 1.5 seconds slower than I normally do on the Rs3M 2020. The reason I was having so many issues with my times was because the Worm 2020 has a very light feel. Turning it is almost effortless, and therefore by comparison, the corner cutting feels very effortful. It's kind of hard to explain because in isolation, the corner cutting is fantastic. It can corner cut well over 45 degrees and it doesn't require that much force. But I think the juxtaposition between the corner cutting force and the turning otherwise just really threw me off. The Rs3M 2020 in comparison is just a more balanced cube. Both the turning and the corner cutting is just a little bit clunkier, and so it just feels more natural. With the WRM 2020, it just felt like the corner cutting and the turning came from two different cubes. So what I ended up doing to mostly fix this issue was to swap the springs back to the original settings. So I went back to the soft springs, and I currently haven't compressed it either, so the springs are essentially as loose as possible. Out of the box, the cube was roughly 75 grams. I threw in extra magnets into all the edge pieces, which brought the weight up to around 78 grams. So overall, it's still 10 grams lighter than my Rs3M 2020, and it feels great. I don't think it's necessary for this cube. I think they did a fairly good job of getting the magnetic strength right, but I was having some misalignment problems simply because the cube is really, really smooth. The WRM is a little bit smaller than the Rs3M, and it is noticeable, but you get used to it pretty quickly within, say, 5 solves. I know I made a lot of comparisons with the Rs3M 2020, and I know a lot of other videos have as well. I just want to make it clear, though, that it's not really that comparable. The two cubes don't even really have the same mechanisms. I don't think it's really a fair comparison other than the fact that they're both from MoYu, both released this year. It's very light, it has a really good feel. I like the size. I think it's a little bit temperamental to set up compared to other cubes. It's not nearly as easy as the other MoYu cubes. I don't think it's an upgrade over any existing cube, so if you're happy with your current main, I would probably skip the WRM. But the WRM does offer a new feel, and I do like it more than the previous Worm as well. I'll keep breaking it in to see if any of my thoughts change. If anything changes about how I feel about this cube, I'll be sure to make a full review. Otherwise, if you don't hear from me again about this cube, it just means that these first impressions are the review. Overall, it's an excellent cube, and I think it's only $35 anyway, which is pretty cheap for a flagship. Make sure you use discount code cyoubx for 5% off your orders. If you have the Worm, let me know below in the comments what you think of it. If you don't have one, let me know if you're planning on getting one. And if you made it this far in the video, congrats, I'm doing a giveaway. So if you've seen my previous couple videos, you'll know that I'm sort of taking a change in this channel. Not only am I doing cubing hardware, but it's really focused on engineering kind of dumb things. So I want you to leave a comment telling me something kind of stupid and silly that I could make. And whichever idea I like the most will win a WRM 2020. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoy the giveaway. And until next time, toodles.
All the pieces feel the same, don't they?